Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the Fat Goblin Podcast. My name is Michael, and I'm here today to talk to you about board games. But first, before I do that, and we won't do this every episode, we'll just do this now. My name is Michael. I'm 26 years old. I am of the male species, and I live in sunny Australia. I am a comic book collector, a video game player, and an avid board gamer. I run a board game group, a small board game group, but a board game group nonetheless, in a non-major city, which is difficult to do in Australia because just the amount of gamers in non-capital cities, it's few and far between. So, I run that. Our last gaming session was probably our most successful numbers-wise. I believe we had 10. If I'm remembering correctly, we had 10. So we had two tables of 5, which was really cool, especially for me because I kind of treat it like it's my baby, as I have no babies of my own. So my board game group is my baby. It sounded really sad. So what I'm going to do, what the idea of this podcast is, and I may be joined by people in the future, although I am just recording this with headphones at my computer, so I'm not sure what I'll do if I do get joined by a co-host or two in the future. But until then, it's just going to be me talking about the board games that I've played in the last fortnight, because that's how often my board game group meets, once a fortnight on every second Sunday. I'm just going to talk about the games we played, just what I thought about them. I am by no means a board game reviewer, but I'm probably 2 or 3 years into the hobby, so I feel like I've got my foot in both camps at the moment. I can understand where your more casual gamer is coming from, and I can also appreciate where your long-term, seasoned veteran gamer is coming from, because I feel like I'm starting to turn into that just out of necessity, because we have a lot of first-time gamers, well, a lot of the newer members, and by that I mean 2 or 3 people that are coming to the gaming group are newer members, so I have to be open to what they're ready for. I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but not everyone is ready to sit down and play a game of Twilight Imperium 3. I mean, hell, after 2 or 3 years in the hobby, I still don't even think I'm ready to sit down and play a game of Twilight Imperium 3. So it's all about kind of judging. We do have in the group, we have some really staunch hardcore gamers who will just, they've been doing it for so long, they don't want to play the intro level stuff anymore. And that's fine. I find that me, as the organizer of the group, I need to be the one that will take that hit and play that intro level game. And that actually is an excellent segue into the first game I played at the last meetup, and that was Pandemic. Now, Pandemic is an excellent cooperative game, ranked 44 on Board Game Geek, designed by Matt Leacock. Now, I have played Pandemic to death. I have Pandemic, I have one of the expansions. It is one of my girlfriend's favourite games to play. It's a cooperative game. It's you take on the various roles of members of the CDC, the Centre for Disease Control, and you are trying to eradicate diseases. The diseases are controlled by a deck of cards, and what they'll do is more and more cities will get infected, and then an epidemic will strike, and all of those cities that have been infected, their cards will be shuffled and put back on top of the deck. So, in a sense, you know where the disease is going to be, but there's also so much going on in these specific areas, it's very hard to stay on top of it. And once it gets out of those cities and starts spreading, that's when you've got a hard time, because it's like, well, we know that these cities are going to pop up again at some point, but we kind of have to prioritize what we're doing here, so, which city do we let burn? Is what it comes down to. Now, we were playing on the hardest difficulty. I don't know why. This was one of the members, he brought it along. I think he had just gotten it, and he decided he was going to play on the hardest difficulty, which would have been fine if everyone was playing their roles correctly, but the owner of the game was playing as a quarantine specialist and was not as a quarantine specialist, you need to kind of just sit down where all the shit's happening and just be like, look, I'm stopping the shit from happening just by being here. But he was like running off, gallivanting away from the diseases, and I try not to tell people how they should play cooperative games too much. I feel I kind of wear the badge of alpha gamer with pride. I don't want to ruin someone else's experience at the same time. So if someone else wants to play the game one way and that means we're all going to lose, as long as they have a good time losing, I think that's better than them having a bad time winning. So I try and keep my mouth shut unless I'm specifically asked what I think. But this one was good because the owner, he wasn't a first-time player of Pandemic, but he was relatively new to it. We had 2 brand new gamers at our table. We had myself and another person who's probably been in the hobby for about as long as I. So I wasn't too keen on playing Pandemic. Kenny, he was the other guy that has played it for as long as I. He wasn't too keen on playing Pandemic, but we kind of took one for the team. We sat down, we played Pandemic. We lost because it was the hardest difficulty, playing with basically 3 new gamers and someone who wasn't playing their character right. But we did put up a good fight. Look, Pandemic's one of those games that I played the death out of it. It was one of the first games I had, so I've played it lots. I could probably be fine not playing this game ever again. I'm starting to sour on co-op games, and a co-op game needs something else, and I don't think that Pandemic has that something else that'll keep me coming back to it. I don't find losing a game because of someone else's mistakes to be particularly fun. And, while most of us should game more for the social interaction than anything else, and that's true, I do, the social interaction is very important to me. Losing a game because someone else is playing wrong irks me, so I try and avoid it. So that was the first game we played, that was Pandemic. Then we moved on to, I figured if I'm going to have to sit through Pandemic, well, I'm going to make you sit through one of my favourite games, and that was Cosmic Encounter. I love Cosmic Encounter. Cosmic Encounter is ranked 73 on Board Game Geek, which I think is a crime that it's ranked lower than Pandemic. It's designed by Bill Herbal, Jack Kittredge, Bill Norton, Peter Alotka, and Kevin Wilson. Now, Cosmic Encounter, you have 5 planets in front of you, and you have, is it 25 ships? I'm going to say it's 25 ships, 5 ships on each planet. And the goal of the game is to get at least one of your ships on 5 different planets. So you have 5 foreign colonies. It's very simple. You get an alien, and that alien has a specific power. The powers are completely asymmetrical. Some are far better than others, but the way this game balances out is if someone has a better power, the other people playing are supposed to recognize this and team up against them. We were playing with 5, the same 5 that played Pandemic. I was playing with a new alien, well, not a new alien, but a new alien to me called the Fortress. And what I could do is I could take my encounter cards and put them on my planet, which means when people attacked me, not only did they have to attack my ships, but they also had to attack the encounter card on the planet, which just, it meant I couldn't be attacked. And, well, I could be attacked, but it was going to be very hard for me to lose, except, and this is where the cool thing comes in, you think that sounds so overpowered. You've at most got 5 ships on one planet, and here I am putting like cards that give me an extra 13 defense on that planet. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? But there was one of the guys, and this was Kenny again, he was playing as the antimatter. And the antimatter, they win if they've got the lowest number. So if he was to go into a conflict with me, he could send 1 ship, and my baseline defense is at about 20. There's no way for me to win that battle. So that's how that balances out. It's very cool. There's hundreds of different aliens. It's very much negotiation. You get a hand of cards, and there will be cards on there that say negotiate. And what you can do, and this is what I did to one of the new players right at the first turn, which is generally a bad strategy because you don't want to be labelled as a liar on the first turn, but I wanted to show them how it worked. Because, explaining it to them, explaining how it works to them, that's one thing, but showing them how it works, that's another thing. So I said, look, if you've got a green negotiate card in your hand, I've got a green negotiate card in my hand, we can just negotiate I'll put a colony on your planet, you put a colony on my planet, and then we're both off to a lead. It's like, oh yeah, that sounds cool, let's do that. He played his negotiate, I played an attack card. So he lost all his ships. I had to give him most of the cards out of my hand as compensation, but whatever, I don't care. He plays his negotiate, I play one of the lowest attack cards I have, and I attack him, I get his planet right on the get-go, and right there immediately I let people know it is okay to be a scumbag in this game. Not only is it okay, it is encouraged. I love Cosmic Encounter. The only problem I have with Cosmic Encounter is it can turn into a popularity contest. The people I play with in my gaming group fortunately don't fall prey to that. We have one member who tries to metagame. He tries to say, oh, Michael always wins, we should all team up on Michael. Oh, you can't trust Michael in a deal because he's just going to backstab you and things like that. It's annoying to have that sort of gamer, and this gamer actually comes from a group full of that type of gamer, just loud and obnoxious. And look, I'll be loud and obnoxious from time to time in a game. I'm going to celebrate my victories, but just playing negotiation games with someone who thinks that yelling, or deception games, that someone thinks that yelling is like how you become a good actor. You don't act well, you just act loud. It's very annoying. Very annoying. But yeah, Cosmic Encounter is great. I did win that game of Cosmic Encounter. By 2, actually. I had my 5th colony and everyone else was only on 3. I was very happy about that. The last turn was amazing, because the way it works is it cycles around, and you can really only win, unless you've got a special alien power, you can really only win when it's your turn. But a game can be over before you even get your first turn. I've seen a game end like that. It was because there was a specific alien power at the table, but I've seen it. So what had happened is it came around to me, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd turn. It was a really oddly long game of Cosmic Encounter. And I had nothing in my hand. I had 2 negotiates. I was 1 away from winning. Everyone else was 2 away from winning. So there was no way anyone was going to negotiate with me. I've got 2 negotiates in my hand, and someone plays... I had 1 negotiate in my hand, and someone plays the Plague card on me, which means I have to discard 1 of every type of card in my hand. And because I only had 1 encounter card, the negotiate card, I then immediately had to draw 8 new cards. And I drew the 8 new cards, and I now had attack cards, and I got the win. So that was funny. That's from a guy, his name's Gerard, but we call him Gary. Gary has this bad habit of accidentally king-making me. It's hilarious, and he has a terrible reputation for it, and he did it again in Cosmic Encounter, which just made me laugh. Which then, this was actually cool. Our group kind of met up here. We had I don't know what the people on the other table were playing beforehand, and I don't know what they played after. But for this time here, the games both ended at roughly the same time, and we were like, hey, do we have 2 copies of Sheriff of Nottingham here? And we did. Dan and Mark, 2 members of the group, had both brought their copies of Sheriff of Nottingham, so we tagged Gary out and brought Dan over, and Dan ran a game of Sheriff of Nottingham. I love this game. It's ranked 416 on Board Game Geek. I imagine that's going to get higher. And it is designed by Sergio Halaban, Brian Pope, and Andre Zatz. And the cool thing about this game is it's part of the Dice Tower Essentials line. Now, if you don't know what the Dice Tower is, it's probably the premier board game related podcast and video YouTube organization in the world. Tom Vassell heads that up, and he is a god among men. All hail all praise the altar of Tom Vassell. But Sheriff of Nottingham, it's a 3 to 5 player game, and we were playing it with 5. And it, again, is another deception game. We're playing a couple of deception games back-to-back in this one. And what you need to do is everyone will have 2 turns at being the sheriff, and that rotates around the table. But when you're not the sheriff, you need to get your goods through the border of Nottingham. And there are certain goods that are... they're not allowed in. the sheriff has decreed that you can't bring in contraband. That's what I'm looking for. Certain items that are contraband, like crossbow, because the sheriff of Nottingham doesn't want the populous armed, so he's like, no crossbows are coming through. Then there's other items like specific foods that the king likes, so if you try and bring them through, the sheriff will confiscate them to give them to the king or the prince. I'm not sure what it is in the Robin Hood mythos, but it's just really cool because it's got these little pouches, and you put your cards in the pouch, and you have to tell the truth about how many cards you're putting in, but you don't need to tell the truth about what you're putting in. So there are 4 different legal goods: chicken, bread, cheese, and chicken, bread, cheese. What's the other one? Chicken. No, I said that already. Chicken, bread, cheese. This is doing my head in. Chicken. I'm having an aneurysm. I looked it up. I looked at pictures from the weekend. It is apples. So chicken, bread, cheese, and apples. They're the 4 legal goods that you're allowed to bring into Nottingham. So you put a number of cards in this pouch secretly, and you have to tell the truth about how many you've put in. So you may say, I've put in 4, and then you pick a legal good. So apples. Now, if you're lying, you may have 3 apples and a crossbow in there. So you hand your pouch over to the sheriff, and then the sheriff will, he can't open the pouch. As soon as the pouch is opened, and you hear a snap when it's opened, so you know when it's been opened. As soon as the pouch is opened, that's it. Negotiations are over. But until that point, he can ask you, what's in the pouch. You say 4 apples. He's like, I really don't believe you. And then you can bribe him. Someone else can bribe him to open your bag. You can just sit there stone-faced and go, it's 4 apples, man. I don't know what you want. I'm not going to pay you to get 4 legal goods through. So do with that whatever you want. And then if they throw the bag back to you, good. You've got it through. No one's looked at it. If he opens the bag, you get to keep the apples that you were telling the truth about, so you'll get your 3 apples. But the crossbow he'll seize, and you'll have to pay him the amount listed on the crossbow if you get caught. I think it's like 4 gold. You start off with 50 gold, so 4 gold might not sound like much, but gold is also victory points. It's very cool. I had a couple of good rounds as the sheriff when I play this. I normally play like I'm a terrible sheriff. Like when I'm the sheriff, by the end of my sheriff phase, I have no money because I'm paying everyone because they're all telling me the truth. And as the sheriff, if they tell you the truth and you don't believe them, you open it, you have to pay them for every item that they were telling the truth about because they were telling the complete and utter truth. So you have to pay them. So normally I have no money, but I just had a couple of really good rounds as sheriff. People tried to get things through, and I wasn't in a trusting mood. So I wasn't even like I was like half-assed negotiating. So I'd be like, look, what's in the bag? Oh, 4 apples. Okay. I don't believe you. How much are you going to pay me not to check? No, man. There's only 4 apples. Okay, done. Open. Like I was giving people no time to talk their way out of it. You were either straight up honest with me, or I was opening your bag. And we were actually playing with one of the new guys. And this is the weird thing about running a gaming group. You never know who's going to rock up. But one of the new guys, he loved the thought of being a criminal. So, and there may have been... Look, he was just in love with the idea of being a criminal. I'm not going to say anything. I don't know the guy. I've only played games with him once. But he played the part of criminal very well. So when he handed me his bag and said... 3 cheese. I was like, you're full of shit. Opened it. 3 contraband, of course. And he's going there, oh, this is amazing. This is the best thing ever. It made me laugh so hard. But yeah, Sheriff of Nottingham. I actually won Sheriff of Nottingham for the first time. Yeah, and I did that by not lying. I would just send through legal goods the entire time. I never had any contraband in front of me. Like the worst lie I would do is say, I've got 5 bread, and then I've got 4 bread and 1 apple in there. So I have to pay 2 because I lied about the apple. It's not. 2's nothing. getting caught with contraband is, you're looking at 4 or 5. So to pay 2 coins, just on the off chance that they're going to let me get the apple through, so hopefully I can have the apple majority, which is worth bonus points, I was cool doing that. So yeah, I managed to win that game just basically off money alone, from not having to pay out fines and from, being a switched on sheriff. And that leads us to the last game we played. We do 8-hour gaming sessions, so that'll give you an idea. We break for lunch, but yeah, we play for 8 hours, and this was the last game we played. The Witcher adventure game, currently ranked 3096 on Board Game Geek, and designed by Ignacy Trevicek. So here's the thing with The Witcher. The Witcher is almost a storytelling game. It's very similar to Eldritch Horror, in that you've got spaces on the map, you go around, you basically draw a card, you do what the card says, you roll some dice, there might be a monster to fight, you roll some dice, and that's it. That's what you do. So you're moving around, trying to move around the most efficient way to get your quests done. The first person to get 3 quests done signals the end of the game, but the quests also have like side quests and support quests that you can do to get more points out of that quest, and that's fine. That's what makes this game more interesting to me than Eldritch Horror. I do not like Eldritch Horror. I do not like any Arkham games. They are... I'm not going to say poorly designed, because they're probably not. They're probably designed very well. They're just obese. They've got so much to them, and for all these rules they have, I just don't get a satisfying experience out of them. The Witcher, though, because it was competitive and I could go off and do my own thing and try and do things in the most efficient way I could see myself doing it, it was, I thought it was good. But when you're at a location, you can do things like you can, even though you've got your main quest there, you can pick up like a smaller side quest. And the guy that won the game, Kenny, he was picking these up all the time, and he was getting good ones, really easy ones, like literally go to the next space next to you. You get 3 victory points. And he was just pulling them over and over again. And I pulled from the deck, I think, 8 times. And 4 of them were ones that are called setbacks, which are negative things that happen to you. So half of what I pulled was setbacks. And then I actually went through the deck, and there are only, in the deck I was drawing from, there are only 7 setbacks in the entire deck. So I drew more than half of them while drawing less than a quarter of the deck. And that's, when you lose the game because of something like that, and I did literally lose the game because of that, because I was 1 or 2 victory points away from beating Kenny, that's annoying. And what else is annoying is the character Kenny was playing had 3... So when you're in combat or you're doing a check, you roll your character dice and you've got neutral dice. So every character has 1 character dice plus the 3 neutral dice, so they're rolling 4 dice to do checks. The character that Kenny was playing, Geralt, he has 3 character dice and 3 neutral dice. And I was trying to figure this out, but I don't understand how that could possibly be balanced. I mean, you look at the end result, and I had a run of bad luck, and I was only 2 points behind. So you think to yourself, well, it must be balanced. But when you look at him rolling 6 dice, and on those dice he has swords, which are what you need to kill monsters, and then you see me rolling my 4 dice, and that 1 character dice I have doesn't have swords on it, so it's nearly impossible for me to kill monsters. How? How is it balanced? I understand that it probably is, based on the end result, but I can't wrap my head around how. What is it about my character that means I can get by on 4 dice, and his character that he can get by on 6, and the result is still the same? Because you can level your character up, you upgrade your character. And I looked through both upgrade decks, and I would say that his upgrade deck was better than my upgrade deck. So, I was thinking initially, maybe I've got some really cool abilities in here. And then I was looking at his, and all my abilities were like use a mark, One ability is generate a mark. The next ability is use a mark to add a sword to your roll. It's not that great. But then I was looking at his, and it's just like, oh yeah, all of your eyes also count as swords. You don't have to use anything for that. You just have it. And it's like, how can he have more dice than me, and his upgrade deck, objectively, to me, be better than mine, and it's balanced? I can't figure it out. The one alternative is I played a much better game than him, and that's why it was so close, because his character was easier to play, and despite me playing better, he still won because he had an easy character. But that's really arrogant to think, and I don't actually believe that, because as far as quests go, we were doing a similar amount of quests and getting them done in a similar amount of time, so I think for first-time players, we both played the same sort of game. I just can't... I'm going on and on and on, but I just can't wrap my head around how a character having 2 extra dice, and those dice seemingly being more useful for doing things in the game that you need to do almost every turn, which is kill monsters, I don't see how it's a balanced game. I don't understand it. I'm not saying it's not balanced. The end result of the game would show that it is, but I don't understand how it is. So that's the games that we have been playing. Let's try and figure out what the game of the day is. And it's tempting to say that it's Cosmic Encounter, because that is one of my favourite games, but I'm not saying Cosmic Encounter. I'm obviously not saying the Witcher adventure game, because I'm not sold on it. It's too much like Eldritch for me. I hate Eldritch, and my brain can't comprehend it. It's obviously not going to be Pandemic, because I've already discussed I don't really like Pandemic, which leaves one choice, and that has to be Sheriff of Nottingham. And the reason I'm picking that over Cosmic Encounter is not because I enjoy it more than Cosmic Encounter per se, but I felt the table enjoyed it more than Cosmic Encounter. That's not to say that they didn't like Cosmic Encounter. I think everyone playing did like Cosmic Encounter. I just think that everyone really got into the theme of Sheriff of Nottingham a lot more. And it was a winner. And as a game day host, it's less about your enjoyment and more about the enjoyment of everyone there. So that's why I'm saying Sheriff of Nottingham, because we were playing 2 games of it at the same time, and I'm pretty sure all 10 people were having a blast the entire time. Winner of the day, Sheriff of Nottingham. Alright, let's take a look at a game on my wish list. The first game on my wish list is also the most expensive game on my wish list. And that makes me think that it's going to stay there for a while. Because I have a decent job, I earn decent money, but I'm currently renting and building my own house. It's a very expensive process, and it has cut down on my games purchases significantly. The other thing that's cut down on my games purchases significantly is I am addicted to Marvel Dice Masters. I have gotten sucked into that Pokemon-esque theory of I need to catch them all. I have holes in my collection that I need filled, and I refuse to pay $70 for a single card, so instead I'll spend $90 on entire Gravity Feed just to get one card. The logic, amazing. But I digress. The first game on my wish list is Duel of Ages 2 The Master Set, which I am looking at the pricing from mulsims.com.au, and it is $150. Now, I've played Duel of Ages. I heard about Duel of Ages before I ever played it, and I was very intrigued. It seemed almost video game-esque in that you've got a team of heroes fighting another team of heroes, and you can run off and do side quests to get extra experience, and you can get items, and it just seemed very cool because it's all these people from either history or like science fiction or fantasy, all these characters that have no business being in the same place and fighting each other. It's a really cool idea. Now, the only time I played it is it was brought to a game group early on in my game group when we didn't have many members, it was brought along and we had two super non-gamers, to the point that I haven't seen them again after the first one, so I think we went a little too heavy. Now, as well as having two super new gamers, we had two other gamers that are introductory and prefer the lighter side of things. So we've got this huge, grandiose team v team game out with all these stats to keep track of, and these four people that just... I don't know if they didn't want to play it. They probably wanted to play it, but they probably shouldn't have been playing it. It should have been brought out with a more specific crowd. On top of that, you take into the account that the heroes were assigned, like the characters were assigned randomly, which, from what I'm hearing now, is not the best way to play the game. The game should be drafted. You should draft what characters you're going to play. And considering I was playing a character whose stats were all 0, and everyone that she was close to, she reversed their stats, I mean, that's not what I want to be playing for my first turn. That's confusing. So not only can I not go near my teammates, I have to be near the offense, but then if I try and double team someone, I'm going to be negating everyone, and I can't attack myself, and it's just... The first time we played this game, it was a cluster. It was the wrong people, and we played it the wrong way. We should have drafted, and we should have just taken simple characters. Like, if you want to play a complicated character, that's cool, that's your choice. That's fine. If you don't like it, that's your own fault. You shouldn't have gone for a complex character. But I was just given a complex character, and I was like, I have no idea what to do with this character. So it was almost like my team had one less character, because I was just looking at this chick going, I don't know what to do with you. I really don't know what to do with you. And yeah, that kind of ruined the first experience, but it didn't ruin the game for me. I still see the potential of this game. I would love to have this game and just play a 2-player game of it. Like, still have like 6 heroes on each side, but just play a 2-player game. I think that'd be awesome. You go off, you're getting like anti-tank guns and giving them to cowboys and stuff. It's just it's a very cool video game-esque game, and that's why it's on my wish list. But there are 2 sets. You can get the normal set, which I think is reasonably priced, about $60, or you can get the master set, which is $150. I feel like I would need the $150 version, because if I got the $60 version, I'd be like, yeah, this is cool, but think of all the characters I'm missing out on. And that's not a good mentality to have, but it's the one I do have. So, yeah, Duel of Ages 2, the master set. It's probably going to stay on my wish list for a while, but that just means that when I do finally get it, it will be all the sweeter. And now let's go from a game that I want to a game that I have. And that game will be, for today, will be 7 Wonders. Now, this is actually ranked the 18th best board game in the world, according to Board Game Geek. It is ranked the number 1 family game in the world, according to Board Game Geek. It is designed by Antoine Boza, and it plays up to 7 people. Now, it's a tableau building game. So what you've got is you start off with a player board in front of you. And that player board has nothing. It has 1 resource and 3 stages of a wonder that you can complete for various points or even more resources. What will happen is you'll have a bunch of cards in front of you. You'll select one of those cards, and then you'll pass the cards to the person sitting to your left. And in the next round, it will be to your right, and the next round will be to your left. That doesn't matter. So the game goes for 3 rounds, and what you're doing is you're trying to build your own little machine. You're trying to, in the first round, you're really trying to build resources. And in my opinion, you should be trying to get as many levels of your wonder done in the first age as possible, because to complete a wonder, you need to use a card face down. Now, if you're doing that in age 2 and age 3, you're giving up scoring potential from better cards. If you can get it done in age 1, you're just giving up resources. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to build a machine so you've got enough resources to buy what you need, like to build what you can in round 2 and 3, because obviously as the ages go on and the ages of the rounds, things get more and more expensive. You can also go down military, but every time, I don't know why, it must be something about me, but every time I get sucked into a military race with one of the people sitting beside me, and we both lose. So that's military. Can give your neighbours negative points, and it can give you points, but I find if you get sucked into it, you're losing more points than you're gaining by spending all of these cards on military. So what you do is, for the 3 rounds, you just build your civilization up by, doing things like science, resource making things, like markets, building up that wonder, and at the end of the 3 rounds, there are various things that score. You add up all the points, and the person with the highest points wins. This is another one of my girlfriend's favourite games, and this one I rate much higher than Pandemic. I will sit down and I will play this game at any time, anywhere. I feel I need some expansions for it, as I've only got the base game, and there are several. I hear very good things about the Tower of Babel expansion, but the problem here is, because my girlfriend likes this game so much, if I get expansions that are going to make me enjoy the game more, am I then taking away from her enjoyment? As she is and will probably forever be an intro-level gamer. She has no interest in going further into the hobby than she already is. So I feel sometimes that I need expansions for Seven Wonders, but then I think about who I play Seven Wonders with. It's my girlfriend and my girlfriend's friends, and they're not going to get anything out of expansions. If anything, it's just going to make it more complicated. So Seven Wonders is one of those games that I keep at its base level just so I can play it with my girlfriend without any confusion, because there are very few games that she'll play with me, and I don't want to ruin the games that she likes for it by adding in further unnecessary complexity. And that brings us to the conclusion of the inaugural episode of the Fat Goblin Podcast. What I would like to do is end the show each fortnight with any questions that may have come in. Obviously, as this has been as this has been recorded, it's the first episode, there are no questions. So what I'll do is I'll just talk about the types of questions that I would be happy to answer. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have about board gaming. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have about how you organise a board game group, and some of the issues and dramas and disappointments and wins and all the stuff that goes along with it. I'd be happy to talk to you about comic books. I'd be happy to answer questions about video games. I'd be happy to answer questions about what I lift in the gym. I would be happy to answer questions about what car I drive. If you want to keep it strictly board games for this question part, that's cool. Ask some board game questions. But if you want to know a little bit more about me, or if someone else comes on board and co-host, if you'd like to know a bit about them, I'm sure we would be more than happy to answer those questions. So that's it for me. I now need to go back and edit in some music, maybe some special effects. Who knows? I'll go crazy. But you'll be like, what do you mean you got to go back? We've already heard that stuff. So this has been the first episode of the Fat Goblin Podcast. Not going to release it for a little while. Going to see if it's something that I stick with. If this is the only episode I ever record, then you'll never hear it. So, keep on gaming. I was going to say play more games, but Will Wheaton's got the thing on that, doesn't he? What about keep on gaming? Is anyone saying that? This is Michael Overdust telling you to keep on gaming.